what one book changed your life?
I saw that question, and there are so many books. I will tell you, I did not speak in public until I was 11 years old, and it didn't really scratch my brain until a couple of years ago. And I thought, oh my gosh, like one of the things I do, I talk for a living. And it was very difficult not to. So I'm going to preface it by sometimes there's a person in your life that kind of opens things up. And I think all of these kind of colluded, they are collided at the same time. But I would say when I was about 11 or 12, there were two books, and I'm not basically a nonfiction or a biography reader. I really love fiction, but there were actually two books in tandem because they were so close together. It's hard to weed out which one was the one. But one was The Diary of Anne Frank, because at the time I was 12 and I'm thinking, here is somebody who's my age who is living in these extraordinary circumstances and being an adolescent, and at the same time having this courage and insight in this worldview that all this terrible stuff is going on around her. And she still says, but I think people are basically good. And that was as much as you can be inspired when you're 11 or 12. The other was the biography about Helen Keller called The Story of My Life. And I thought, here's a woman, and in retrospect, as an adult, I really appreciate, here's a woman who was without sight, without hearing, and yet she had a voice and she saw things. And again, I think that there are people who overcome incredible adversity to live lives of grace, whether it was a very long life like Helen Keller or a very brief life like Anna Frank. There's this, I think there's a zest for life. And I felt that, in my, 12-year-old self, really life affirming and really encouraging. And the fact that they wrote these things down about themselves, I think gave me the bug to start to write down things about myself and the people around me.
That's really lovely. I have to admit, I haven't read The Diary of Anne Frank. It's like one of those things that's on my list, and I'm like, can I emotionally handle this book? That's what's holding me back.
It's very difficult to read some of these things, but what comes from her is this optimistic spirit. And she has a crush on a boy that they're, hiding. She's in hiding, and she's crushing on somebody. And there's something so appealing about that energy, and that I think she knew what she was dealing with, but also her parents were protecting her a little bit from it. So it's this really unfiltered view of this child, because she never knew her diary would be fodder for the public. And I wish that more YA writers would read that, because a lot of times they don't make their characters as complex as they can be, because we all have feelings. When we're younger, we don't have the emotional vocabulary always to express them, but always remember that each stage has an emotional life, and how do you bring that out? And it's really finding the truth. When truthful characters speak, they connect to us.